At my son's 7th-day memorial service, my selfish daughter-in-law shared a selfie with the caption, "The new heiress of the Davis Empire." I smiled quietly, making sure she would never find a job, not even as a dishwasher. I am grateful you have come across my story. Follow it until the very end and comment on the city you are watching from, so I can see just how far my tale has traveled. The church was filled with silence, broken only by the gentle sobs resonating through the wooden pews. I sat in the front row, my black dress feeling suffocating as I struggled to catch my breath. It had been only 7 days, just 7 days since I lost Jason, my only son, the center of my world, my everything. The priest's words drifted over me without meaning. I could not concentrate on anything except the vast emptiness where my heart once was. Jason was only 42, far too young, so young to leave this world and abandon me to this grief. I gripped my handkerchief, already soaked with tears, trying to steady my trembling breaths. The memorial service neared its end, and soon people would come forward with those same sorrowful eyes and the same hollow phrases. "He is in a better place. Time heals all wounds," as if time could ever mend the pain of outliving your child. My phone buzzed inside my purse. Normally, I would not check it during a service, especially not at my son's memorial, but something urged me to look. Maybe it was divine intervention, or perhaps the universe's cruel way of driving the pain even deeper. A notification from Instagram appeared. Emily, my daughter-in-law, had shared a post. With trembling hands, I opened the app and immediately froze. There she stood in front of the mirror in the master bedroom of my son's house, our family home, wearing a black designer dress that likely cost more than what many people earn in a month. Her makeup was flawless, not a single tear visible, her red lipstick perfect. But it was the caption that made my heart sink. The fresh days of the Davis Empire, progressing forward for Stan. New beginnings. The phone almost slipped from my grasp. 7 days. It had only been 7 days since we laid my son to rest, and already she was celebrating her inheritance. The very inheritance my late husband and I had devoted decades to building, which Jason had grown with his sharp business mind. I lifted my eyes from the phone to find her sitting across the room, head bowed, in what I now recognized as an act of sorrow. Everything about Emily had always been an act. The devoted wife, the mourning widow, all roles carefully performed in her intricate plan to seize our family's fortune. Jason had been blind to it. "Mom, you are too harsh on her," he used to say. "Emily loves me for who I am, not what I possess." I wanted to trust him for his sake, but mothers never lie to themselves. 3 years ago, when Jason first brought her home, I noticed the cold, calculating look in her eyes as she took in our estate. I noticed how all her questions kept returning to the business, to our real estate holdings, to the connections we had built, but Jason was completely captivated, bewitched by her beauty and charisma, unable to hear my subtle cautions. When the service concluded, everyone stood up. I slipped my phone into my pocket, straightened my posture, and braced myself for the condolences to come. Emily was already moving through the crowd, touching people's arms gently. Her face was a perfect mask of grief. I observed her as she approached Jason's business associates, men who managed millions, and I could see how her attitude shifted. She became more engaged, more focused. Mrs. Bennett, my oldest friend, squeezed my hand. "You look as pale as a ghost. Are you okay? Did you know?" I whispered, my voice hoarse. "Did you know Jason revised his will last month?" Her eyes grew a little wider. "No, I had no idea. What exactly are you saying?" He left everything to her. Everything. The words felt bitter on my tongue. The house, his shares in the company, even the summer cabin that had been in our family for generations. "Surely he left something for you. The prenuptial agreement was never signed." I completed her thought. Jason convinced himself it was unnecessary. He claimed it would cast a shadow on their marriage from the start. I let out a hollow laugh that made Mrs. Bennet flinch. Now she receives it all. I watched as Emily accepted a handkerchief from an elderly man, Mr. Harrison, one of our largest investors, dabbing at eyes that remained dry. The atmosphere was oddly dry. "I will not let her have it," I declared, my voice suddenly firm. "I refuse to allow her to ruin everything we created." Mrs. Bennet stared at me, worry evident in her eyes. "Shirley, what are you thinking of doing?" I remained silent because the plan was only beginning to take shape in my mind. But one fact was absolutely certain. Emily believed she had won. She presumed that with Jason gone, I was just a grieving elderly woman, easily pushed aside. She had no clue who she was truly confronting. As the mourners exited the church, I stayed seated, watching Emily navigate through my son's farewell ceremony. Once the church had emptied, I slowly rose and walked to the front where Jason's portrait rested, surrounded by white lilies. "I promise you," I murmured to his smiling image, "she will not receive a single penny, and she will never find work in this town again, not even washing dishes." The morning following the memorial, I awoke with a sharp clarity I had not experienced since Jason's passing. The sorrow still draped over me heavily, like a tangible weight, but now it was paired with something else: determination. I could not bring Jason back, but I could safeguard what he had built, what countless ancestors of our family had created. I dressed meticulously in a navy suit that always made me feel strong, even at 68. "Know your enemy," my late husband Richard often said. To truly understand Emily, I needed to look beyond her polished social media appearance. My first visit was to George Wilkins, who he had served as our family driver for almost 20 years, until Emily persuaded Jason that his services were no longer necessary. I discovered him employed at a nearby car repair shop, his expression brightening the moment he noticed me. "Mrs. Davies," he greeted warmly, helping me settle into a chair in the cramped break room. "I was here yesterday, but I stayed out of sight." I felt a pang of sympathy for him. "I'm truly sorry about Jason." "Thank you, George." I reached out and grasped his rough hand. "There is something important I must ask you. While you were working for us, did you ever observe anything strange about Emily?" George paused, staring at his cup of coffee. "It is not my place to speak negatively." "Please," I interrupted. "Jason is gone now, and I worry she intends to ruin everything he valued." He exhaled deeply and confessed, "There were phone calls late at night when Jason was away on business. I could hear her murmuring in the garden. Once I drove her to a downtown cafe. She told me to wait in the car, but I spotted her meeting a man. They clearly knew each other well." "Did you inform Jason?" I asked. "I tried to hint, ma'am, but he dismissed it, saying I was being too protective of him, just like you." My chest tightened at how blind Jason had been to her deceit. George leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There is more. On the day before I was fired, I overheard Emily speaking on the phone. She said, 'Once it is done, we will never have to worry about money again.' At the time, I thought she meant some business matter, but now with Jason's death, the timing is suspicious." It was easy to overlook, but did Jason seem unwell before he passed away? I asked quietly, barely audible. "Not exactly unwell, but he was different, more absent-minded and occasionally confused. We all assumed it was due to work-related stress." I thanked George and left him my contact details, asking him to reach out if anything else came to mind. My next destination was the offices of Davis Holdings, the company my husband had established and that Jason had transformed into a commercial real estate powerhouse. The receptionist's eyes widened when I entered. "Mrs. Davis, we were not expecting you," she said. I replied, "I want to see Jonathan, please," referring to Jonathan Myers, the family lawyer for more than 3 decades. She made a quick call, her face showing unease. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Davis, but Mr. Myers is tied up in meetings all day." "I will wait," I said firmly, and took a seat in the lobby. After about 20 minutes, another door opened, and Emily walked out, wearing a sharp black pantsuit, her blonde hair pulled back into a strict bun. She hesitated when she saw me, but quickly composed herself. "Well, what a surprise," she said with a false sweetness. "I did not expect to find you here." "Apparently not," I replied calmly. "I am here to see Jonathan." "Oh," she said, her smile tightening. "I just finished a meeting with him. We were going over the transfer of Jason's assets. As you know, he left everything to me." The casual way she mentioned it, as if talking about the weather, made my blood boil, but I controlled my expression. Neutral. "Yes, I am aware of the situation. That is actually what I wanted to talk about with Jonathan." Something flashed in Emily's eyes. Was it concern? "I'm confident he will clarify that. Everything is under control. Jason was very explicit about his intentions." Before I could reply, Jonathan appeared himself. He seemed uneasy and avoided making eye contact. "I certainly did not know you planned to come today," he said. "Obviously," I replied. "Do you have time to talk privately?" Jonathan looked at Emily, who gave a barely noticeable nod. That subtle sign revealed all I needed to understand. Jonathan, who had seen Jason grow up and had been like family to us, was now completely under Emily's influence. "I have another meeting in 5 minutes," he said with regret. "Perhaps we can arrange something for next week." Slowly rising, I gathered my composure like a shield. "That will not be necessary. I will seek new legal counsel." Emily's smile was triumphant as I exited, but I was far from defeated. I was only beginning. Later that evening, sitting in my office and going over old financial records, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Mrs. Davis." The voice on the line was female, young, and anxious. "You do not know me, but I work at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. I was Mr. Davis's nurse during his last appointment 3 weeks ago." My grip on the phone tightened. "Yes, there is something you must be aware of." On the day of his visit, his wife, Mrs. Bennett, Davis was determined to have a private conversation with Dr. Carson. "After their meeting, your son's medication was changed. I found it odd because he had been on the same treatment for several years." My heart raced heavily. "What kind of medication was it?" "It was a much stronger drug prescribed for his heart condition." I attempted to question Dr. Carson about this, but he dismissed me promptly, saying it was none of my concern. "Thank you for letting me know," I said, my thoughts spinning wildly. "Can I have your name?" I asked. "I would prefer not to disclose it. I might lose my job," she answered hesitantly. I had always liked Mr. Davis. He had shown kindness to me, and learning about his sudden death made me feel I could not remain quiet. After we ended the call, I sat in the dimming light, trying to piece everything together. The mysterious calls George had mentioned, the altered medication, the changed will, all began to make sense. Suddenly, the doorbell rang sharply, pulling me from my thoughts. When I opened the door, a young man in uniform handed me an envelope. It contained legal papers regarding Shirley Davies. Inside was an eviction notice. I was given 30 days to leave my own home. This was the house I had lived in with Richard, where we had raised Jason, the house that, according to the documents, now belonged solely to Emily. I sank onto the floor, crushing the paper in my hand. Tears escaped after the flood of shock and rage. Yet, even through my tears, a strong determination took hold. Emily had declared war, but she would soon realize she had seriously underestimated who she was dealing with. The small apartment on Maple. The street bore no resemblance to the expansive property I had called home for the past 40 years. The walls were thin, the furniture minimal, and the entire place could easily fit into the living room of my previous house. Yet it was tidy and affordable, and most importantly, Emily had no idea about it. I had managed to gather my personal items before the sheriff showed up to enforce the eviction notice. Photographs, jewelry, and my husband's rare book collection, objects carrying more emotional value than financial. I had not fought the eviction. That struggle would come later on my own terms. A knock at the door broke my concentration while unpacking. I hesitated, fearing Emily had somehow found me. But when I peeked through the peephole, a familiar face appeared, bringing unexpected tears to my eyes. "Margaret," I said, opening the door to our former family housekeeper. "How did you find me?" Margaret Wilson had been with our family for more than 20 years, until Emily persuaded Jason they needed someone younger and more contemporary. At 65, Margaret was far from fragile, but Emily always got her way. "George told me," she said, stepping inside carrying a casserole. "I hope it's all right. I brought lasagna." "It's more than all right," I replied, deeply touched. "It's incredible to see a friendly face." During dinner, Margaret's tone grew solemn. "Mrs. Davis, I believe there is something important I must tell you. Something you should know. I should have told you while Mr. Jason was still alive." I put down my fork, trying to prepare myself. Continue. "This concerns Emily. She is not the person she claims to be." Margaret took out an envelope from her purse. "After she caused me to lose my job, anger drove me to investigate her past. The story about her being raised in Boston and attending Wellesley did not match the facts. Inside the envelope were photocopies of newspaper articles and what looked like court records. Her true name is Emily Kowalski. She grew up in Detroit, left community college without finishing, and was involved with at least 2 other wealthy men before your son. Each relationship ended when the men died unexpectedly. My hands shook as I examined the papers. "Are you implying she—" "I have no proof of any crimes," Margaret said quickly, "but it gets worse. The week before Mr. Jason passed away, I overheard Emily on the phone discussing the will. She said he finally agreed to alter it. Just a bit more time, and everything will be ours." A chill ran through me. "Ours?" Margaret nodded with a grim expression. "I believe she has a partner in this. After Margaret left, I stayed awake late into the night, going over everything she gave me. The documents revealed Emily had been briefly married to a man named Edward Fleming, who died suddenly of a heart attack at 45. His family suspected foul play but could not prove it. At that time, Emily was known as Emily Fleming. He had inherited everything and then vanished soon after. I needed more than mere doubts. I required solid proof. The next morning, I made a call I had been avoiding for many years. "Elizabeth Davis speaking," came a sharp voice. "Elizabeth, this is Shirley." There was a heavy silence between us. My sister-in-law and I had not communicated since Richard's funeral 5 years earlier, when an argument over his classic car collection had exploded into a bitter family quarrel. Finally, she said, "Surely, I heard about Jason. I am truly sorry." "Thank you," I replied, taking a deep breath. "I need your assistance." Elizabeth had worked as a federal prosecutor before retiring. If anyone knew how to gather evidence against Emily, it was her. "Am I hearing you correctly?" she asked. I explained everything, the suspicious details surrounding Jason's death, the altered will, and what Margaret and George had told me. I could almost sense her legal mind analyzing the situation over the phone. "Meet me at Café Laurent tomorrow at 10, she instructed at the end, "and be very cautious. If even half of what you suspect is true, that woman is extremely dangerous." That night, sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I envisioned Jason's face, not the successful entrepreneur he had grown to be, but the young boy who used to crawl into my bed during storms. My dear son, possibly killed by the woman he loved. The thought was almost unbearable. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep because I woke to my phone ringing relentlessly. An unfamiliar number appeared on the phone. Mrs. Davis answered. A man's voice she did not recognize spoke. "This is Detective Michael Rivera with the Westlake Police Department. I need to ask you a few questions regarding your son's passing." Her heart quickened. "Has something happened?" she asked. "We have received some information indicating that your son's death might not have been from natural causes. Would you be willing to come down to the station?" "Yes, certainly. I will be there in about an hour," she replied. She dressed swiftly, her thoughts racing. Who could have contacted the police? It was Margaret, the nurse from Meridian Pharmaceuticals. At the station, Detective Rivera guided her to a small room with plain walls and a table fixed firmly to the floor. He looked younger than expected, perhaps in his mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a notebook already open before him. "Mrs. Davis, when did you last see your son alive?" he asked. 3 days before he passed. We had lunch together at the grill on Main Street, she recalled. "And how did he appear?" The memory of that lunch surfaced. He seemed tired. He mentioned experiencing headaches, which was unusual for him. He also displayed moments of confusion and repeated himself several times, which was out of character. The detective took notes diligently. "Did he express any worries about his wife?" She shook her head. "No, but that was typical. Jason did not like hearing any criticism directed at Emily." Detective Rivera nodded thoughtfully. "Mrs. Davis, we have received information suggesting that your daughter-in-law might have interfered with your son's medication. We are reopening the inquiry into his death." A wave of relief swept over me, quickly followed by a fresh wave of sorrow. Having my doubts confirmed meant confronting the harsh reality that Jason had been killed. "There is something else you should know," I said, my voice firmer now. "I believe Emily influenced my son to alter his will shortly before he passed away. She has done this before with another wealthy man in Detroit." The detective raised his eyebrows. "Do you have proof of this?" "Not yet, but I am working on it." As I left the station, my phone vibrated with a message from Elizabeth. "Change of plans. Meet me at my house immediately. I have discovered something about the will." Driving to Elizabeth's elegant home in the historic district, hope surged within me for the first time since Jason's death. With the police inquiry, Elizabeth's legal knowledge, and Margaret's information, I was finally pushing back. Elizabeth opened the door before I could knock, guiding me inside with a serious look. "I have been making calls all morning," she said, leading me to her study. "Jonathan Myers switched law firms 2 months ago, which seemed strange given his long association with your family's company. So, I contacted an old colleague who still works at his previous firm." She pointed to her computer screen, showing an email. "According to their records, Jason did change his will, but not the way Emily says. He did add her as a beneficiary, but specifically stated, 'You are supposed to maintain control of the business and the family residence. This new will that leaves everything to Emily is a fake.'" "A fake?" I looked at Elizabeth, trying to absorb this shocking revelation. "But how? Jonathan Myers has been our family lawyer for many years. He would immediately recognize Jason's signature." Elizabeth's face grew serious. "That is exactly what troubles me. Either Jonathan is involved or he is being influenced somehow." She handed me copies of the original will and the alleged new one. "Examine the signatures," she said. I inspected them carefully. To someone without experience, they seemed identical. However, after 3 decades of seeing Jason's handwriting, I noticed subtle differences. "We need more than just doubts," Elizabeth stated firmly, her prosecutorial mind already planning the next move. "We need undeniable proof of the forgery and must clarify Jonathan's involvement in this situation." That evening, we met in Elizabeth's dining room along with Margaret and George, arranging papers over the gleaming mahogany surface. It was an unusual gathering. A former housekeeper, a driver, a retired prosecutor, and myself. Nonetheless, we were bound by our affection for Jason and our resolve to uncover the truth. "The police are reopening the inquiry into Jason's death," I informed them. "Yet we must prepare our own case against Emily. Elizabeth believes the will is counterfeit." George leaned closer. "But we require evidence," he insisted. "What can we do now?" "Have we considered looking for the man Emily used to meet if we can track him down?" Margaret responded, "I have been mulling over that." Roughly a fortnight before Mr. Jason passed away, Emily had a delivery sent to her home. She kept it very hush-hush, immediately taking the parcel to her private quarters. Elizabeth inquired, "What sort of package was it?" "It was small, approximately the size of a book. The delivery company was unfamiliar to me. I think it was called Confidential Courier, Elizabeth noted carefully. That detail could prove crucial. What else did we uncover? As we combined our fragments of information about Emily's actions in the weeks before Jason's death, a clearer story unfolded. She had been orchestrating this for several months, possibly with a partner, manipulating Jason and those close to him with precision. I said, "We need to investigate her background further." Then I added, "Elizabeth, can you use your network to delve into her previous marriage? And we have to find this mysterious man she met." Elizabeth agreed. "I will place some calls, but we must also discuss Davis's assets." Given the forged will, Emily now holds control of the company. Each day she manages it, she may be depleting resources or making harmful choices. "Plus, she resides in your home, Margaret," Margaret said with frustration. I exhaled deeply. Priorities first, I must make a few calls myself. During the following 3 days, I contacted former business partners and longtime friends who served on various boards alongside me. Jason's college roommate, now the head of a prominent bank. I did not reveal everything, only that there were troubling concerns regarding the management of Davis's assets under Emily's supervision. By the week's end, Emily encountered unforeseen obstacles. The bank abruptly demanded extra authorizations for large-scale transfers. Important clients began postponing their transactions with the firm. Suppliers insisted on upfront payments, referring to newly introduced rules. Elizabeth phoned me on Friday afternoon, her tone victorious. "I just got word from my contact at Regent Bank. Emily attempted to move $2 million to an offshore account but was blocked. She is furious." I allowed myself a slight grin. "Good. Let her experience the strain." "There is more," Elizabeth went on. "I located Edward Fleming's sister in Michigan. She is ready to discuss Emily, known to her as Emily Kowalski. She believes Emily was involved in her brother's death. When can we meet with her?" "She arrives tomorrow." Also, I submitted a petition to challenge the will based on suspected forgery. The court has placed a temporary hold on all major properties until the issue is settled. I closed my eyes, feeling relief wash over me. It was not a victory yet, but definitely a beginning. That evening, Detective Rivera called with news. "Mrs. Davis, we have subpoenaed your son's medical reports and the autopsy findings. The toxicology tests reveal elevated levels of his heart medicine in his system was considerably above the amount he was supposed to take." My grip on the phone tightened. "What does that signify?" "It means we now possess sufficient grounds to formally question Mrs. Davis about the passing of your son. We will bring her in for questioning tomorrow morning." After ending the call, I sank onto the edge of my bed, my feelings swirling wildly. The proof against Emily was accumulating, yet it did not bring Jason back. Nothing ever could. For a brief moment, the heavy sadness almost overwhelmed me once more. Suddenly, my phone vibrated with a message from Elizabeth. She wrote, "Just got word from my private investigator. Found the mysterious man. His name is Victor Laszlo, a former pharmaceutical sales representative linked to Emily for 5 years." Another piece of the jigsaw starting to fit together. I was about to reply when a second text arrived. This time, it was from a number I did not recognize. "I know what you are doing. Stop immediately or you will regret it. Not all involved in this case have been uncovered." A shiver ran down my spine. Emily was aware we were getting close and she was threatening me. But what did she mean by others remaining unidentified? Who else could be part of this? I forwarded the warning to Elizabeth and Detective Rivera, then made sure my apartment door was securely locked. For the first time, true fear crept over me. Emily might have killed before and escaped justice. What would prevent her from targeting me next? The following morning arrived gloomy and wet, reflecting my troubled spirit as I drove to meet Dr. James Whittaker, who had... Jason's autopsy was carried out by Elizabeth, who had arranged the meeting by calling in a favor from a former colleague. Dr. Mr. Whitaker was a tall, serious man with silver hair and reading glasses resting on his nose. He greeted me with a firm handshake and genuine compassion. "Mrs. Davis, I have gone over the toxicology results again considering the police investigation. I believe I overlooked something important during my initial examination." He showed me the reports, explaining the technical details in simple terms. "Your son's heart issue was mild and should not have been fatal even under stress. However, these medication levels could have led to cardiac arrest. The key question is, how did so much medication enter his body?" "Could it have been accidental?" I asked, though I already suspected the truth. Dr. Whitaker shook his head. "The quantity found was far beyond an accidental overdose. Someone deliberately administered an excessive amount." As I left Dr. Whitaker's office, my phone rang. It was Detective Rivera, his voice tense. "Mrs. Davis, we went to question Emily this morning, but she was not at home. According to the staff, she left hastily last night with several suitcases. We have issued an alert, but I wanted to warn you. She might try to reach out to you." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Thank you, Detective. I will remain cautious." Just then, I pulled into Elizabeth's driveway and noticed a black SUV parked opposite the house. The vehicle was parked on the street, its engine idling. As I observed, the passenger window lowered, revealing Emily's face. Our gazes locked, and for a fleeting moment, time seemed to stand still. Then the window rose, and the SUV pulled away from the curb, vanishing around the corner. She had not run away. She was watching me, and somehow that felt far more ominous than any threatening message. Elizabeth insisted I stay at her place after the encounter with Emily. She argued, "She knows where your apartment is," while preparing the guest room. "You will be safer here, and I have a security system." I did not resist. The icy stare in Emily's eyes unsettled me more than I cared to admit. That evening, Emily Fleming arrived from Detroit. She was a slender, serious woman in her 40s, bearing little resemblance to her late brother, except for the same deep-set eyes. "Edward was my only family," she said, sitting stiffly in Elizabeth's living room. "After our parents died, we had only each other. When he met Emily, I was happy for him. He had been lonely for too long." I asked, "How did they meet?" She explained it was at a charity gala where Emily worked as an event organizer. Within 3 months, they were married. Emily's lips pressed tightly together. Everything changed after that. Edward became distant and secretive. When I saw them, Emily always hovered, never letting us be alone. Elizabeth leaned forward. "And then he died." Emily nodded, holding back tears. "They said a heart attack, but Edward had no history of cardiac issues, none at all." When I raised my doubts, Emily immediately became defensive, accusing me of envying their joy. I asked softly, "Were you suspicious of something sinister?" She replied, "Absolutely. I even contacted the authorities, but they claimed there was no proof." Edward was cremated right away, as Emily insisted. She said that was his wish, but Edward and I had talked about being buried near our parents. Cremation was never mentioned. The similarities to Jason's death were unsettling. The identical method, the rapid effort to protect assets. Could Emily have had a partner in this? Elizabeth wondered, asking if there was someone who visited frequently or made calls. Emily furrowed her brow. She recalled a man Edward introduced as Emily's cousin, Victor. He had been at their home often near the end. Elizabeth and I exchanged looks. Victor Leo, the same individual Emily had been secretly seeing. I asked, "Did this Victor have any experience in medicine?" Remembering he worked in pharmaceutical sales. Emily replied, "I am not sure, but after Edward passed, I noticed him at the memorial, speaking closely with Emily. They acted more like lovers than relatives." After Emily left, promising to send us any files from her brother's case, Elizabeth and I informed Detective Rivera of our findings. "This establishes a pattern," he said. 2 men, each diagnosed with new heart conditions, both dying suddenly after altering their wills to benefit Emily. And both instances involved this Victor Lowe. Elizabeth asked, "Have you tracked him down?" "Not yet, but we are very close. Jason's credit card was used yesterday at a motel outside the town limits. That night, I found myself unable to sleep. Every creak in Emily's old house made my mind race, picturing her hiding somewhere in the shadows. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, I gave up and went downstairs to make some tea. As the kettle boiled, my phone suddenly lit up with a message from Margaret. She was back at the house and had just noticed lights on in the study. I quickly texted her to stay away and to call Detective Rivera. Within a few minutes, Rivera replied to confirm that officers were already watching the house carefully. If Emily was inside, she would not be able to leave without being questioned. Morning brought news that completely shattered the case open. "Doctor," Whitaker said urgently, "Mrs. Davis, I have been examining all the medical tests of your son from the past year. I found something unusual in his blood work from 6 months ago compared to more recent reports." "What is it?" He explained there were traces of a substance that would not appear in regular toxicology screenings, but could imitate heart disease symptoms over time. The compound is called thallium. It has no taste or smell and can be given in small doses to cause a slow developing illness that seems natural. A chill ran down my spine. Was he saying Jason had been poisoned for months? Apparently that is the case. Whitaker had already informed Detective Rivera. This revelation changed everything. It showed that someone had planned and prepared this attack long before. I sat down, clutching the phone tightly. Emily did not kill Jason just on a sudden impulse. She had been gradually administering poison to him over several months, causing symptoms designed to make his eventual heart attack appear as a natural progression of an illness. When Emily came downstairs, she found me still sitting there. One glance at my face made her realize something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. I explained Dr. Whitaker's findings and watched as her expression shifted from worry to anger. That was the reason she needed time. Emily said she had to build a medical history that would make his death look natural. The altered will was merely the last piece of the puzzle. "And Jonathan Myers?" I inquired. "How is he involved?" Emily's face grew darker. "I've done some investigating. Jonathan's son struggles with a severe gambling addiction and is deeply indebted to dangerous individuals. I believe Stella might be exploiting this to blackmail Jonathan." The clues were starting to align, but one essential element was still missing. Solid proof directly linking Stella to the poisoning. That afternoon, George called with an update. "Mrs. Davis, I was reviewing some old receipts from when I drove Mr. Jason and Stella, and I discovered something." He continued, "On 3 occasions last year, I drove Stella to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. She always made me wait inside the car." "Do you have the address?" I asked. "Better than that," he replied. "I have the unit number. She didn't realize I saw her enter it." I passed this information to Detective Rivera, who assured me a warrant would be obtained right away. While waiting for updates about the storage unit, Emily and I consulted a handwriting specialist who confirmed our suspicions. The signature on the new will was a cleverly crafted forgery. "It is well done," she noted, "but there are noticeable inconsistencies in the pressure applied and the way some letters connect. From my expert perspective, this is not Jason Davis's genuine signature." With this evidence, Emily quickly filed an urgent petition with the court aiming to annul the current will and reinstate the previous one. "The hearing is scheduled for Monday," she informed me. "If we succeed, everything will revert to you until the criminal investigation concludes." That same evening, Detective Rivera contacted us. "Mrs. Davis, during our search of the storage unit, we discovered vials of thallium along with detailed dosage notes and, most damning, Jason's medical files marked with annotations. We also uncovered passport documents and cash. It appears she intended to escape the country." We arrested Emily about an hour ago at your residence, and she now faces charges of first-degree murder. A wave of relief passed through me, but it was fleeting. What about Victor Harrison? I asked. He is still unaccounted for, but we found evidence in the storage unit that ties him to the crime as well. His capture is only a matter of time. After ending the call, I sat quietly in Emily's garden, watching the evening twilight fall across the orderly rows of roses. Justice for Jason seemed near, yet the empty void left by his loss lingered. No arrest or verdict could ever bring my son back. My heart remained heavy. My phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. Expecting another threat from Emily or maybe Victor, I almost ignored it. When I finally opened it, my heart nearly stopped. The text showed a photo of Jason and me from many years ago, seated on the deck of our lake house, laughing over a long-forgotten joke. Beneath the picture was a note. "Mrs. Davis, you do not know me, but I worked alongside your son. He once showed me this photo and said it was his favorite because it captured the most wonderful day of his life. I thought you would want to have it." Tears blurred my eyes as memories rushed back. That flawless summer day, the sunlight sparkling on the water, Jason teaching me how to fish, even though I had protested that I was too old to learn. How proud he was when I caught a small bass, insisting we take a picture to remember my first catch. Suddenly, my phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Detective Rivera again, his voice filled with urgency. "Mrs. Davis, we have just received a tip that Victor Laszlo was seen near Elizabeth's house. Officers are on their way, but I wanted to alert you first." A loud crash shattered the quiet of the evening, followed by Elizabeth's frightened scream. I dropped the phone and rushed inside, my heart pounding fiercely. Elizabeth stood in the kitchen amid shattered glass, her face pale with fear. "The back door," she gasped, pointing. "Someone tried to break in. I threw a vase at the intruder, and he fled." Outside, blue lights flashed as police cars arrived on the scene. Officers quickly spread out to search the property. Detective Rivera appeared moments later, his face serious. "Are you both all right?" he asked, his eyes scanning the kitchen. Emily nodded, still shaken. I saw a man's face at the window. When he tried the door, I reacted instinctively. "Did you see where he went?" Rivera asked. "Toward the woods behind the house," Emily said. Rivera sent officers to search the area, then turned to us. "We need to move you both to a secure location. Victor Leo is dangerous. He has a history of violent acts that Emily managed to keep hidden." Within 20 minutes, we were settled in a hotel suite under police protection. Elizabeth made calls to her security company to fix her home's breached defenses, while I sat by the window, watching the blurred city lights through the rain that had started to fall. "Are you okay?" Emily asked softly, sitting beside me. "I keep thinking about Jason," I admitted. "How he never saw through her, how much he trusted her." Emily squeezed my hand. "Jason saw the good in people, just like his father. It was not a weakness, certainly. It was what made him special." Around midnight, Rivera called with an update. "We have caught Lowe. He was trying to escape in a stolen car but crashed during the chase. He is in custody and talking, trying to negotiate a deal." "What is he saying?" I asked. "He claims Emily planned everything, that she approached him because of his pharmaceutical expertise. According to Leo, she had done this on 3 occasions before, not merely twice. There was an earlier victim prior to Edward Fleming. The following morning brought new disclosures. Jonathan Myers surrendered voluntarily, admitting that Emily had coerced him into assisting with the forged will by threatening his child. The court promptly declared the fake document void, reinstating Jason's original will. By midday, journalists had caught wind of the case. Headlines shouted about the Black Widow of Westlake and her chain of deceased spouses. Photographers gathered outside the courthouse where Emily, pale and in handcuffs, was escorted in for her arraignment. I did not attend. I could not stand to witness her breathe the same air as the woman who had intentionally poisoned my son for financial gain. Instead, I met with Jason's personal assistant, Claire, who had reached out after hearing about Emily's detention. "There is something you need to know," she said, sliding a folder across the coffee shop table. Jason had asked me to keep this in a secure place. He instructed if anything happened to him, I should wait for 1 month and then deliver it to you. Inside was a letter in Jason's handwriting dated just 2 weeks before his passing. "Mom, if you are reading this, something has occurred to me. Lately, I have been feeling odd, confused, forgetful. The doctors claim it is stress, but I am doubtful. Emily has changed. Sometimes I catch her staring at me with an intense look. I noticed an expression on her face that I couldn't place. It was cold and calculating. Just last week, I caught her in my office, sifting through my files. When I confronted her about it, she immediately became defensive and then flipped the blame onto me, accusing me of not trusting her. I have revised my will alongside Jonathan. Despite everything, I have ensured that Emily is taken care of. I made promises, and I intend to keep them, but the majority of the estate is left to you with clear instructions on how I want the company to be managed. If something happens to me suddenly or unexpectedly, please investigate further. It pains me to even write this, but I must face the growing fear within me. I love you, Mom. You have always been my foundation, my guiding principle. I regret if I have ever failed to listen." Tears blurred my sight as I finished reading his last message to me. Jason had sensed that something was wrong. He tried to shield himself and protect the company, but by then it was too late. Claire spoke softly, saying he cared deeply for you. He mentioned you constantly. 2 days later, Elizabeth and I returned to my house, my real home, now devoid of Emily's presence. The staff had already cleared out her possessions, keeping them as evidence or for future removal. Walking through the familiar rooms, memories of Jason surrounded me. From the marks charting our growth on the kitchen door frame to the family photos lining the stairs, this house held my past and my emotions. And now it was truly mine again, though the victory felt empty without him. Jason was going to share it. In his study, everything stayed exactly as he had left it. His favorite pen rested on the desk, a half-read red book sat on the side table, and his collection of vintage watches remained neatly arranged in their display case. I settled into his chair, tracing my fingers over the worn leather armrests, and allowed myself to fully mourn for the first time since his passing. The preliminary hearing for Emily's case was set for the upcoming week. The evidence against her was undeniable. The poison discovered in the storage unit, Victor Laszlo's testimony, the forged will, and a financial trail proving she had been siphoning funds from Jason's accounts for months, preparing her getaway. The assistant district attorney called to discuss the situation, explaining that they aimed for the harshest punishment possible. With the facts we have, plus Laszlo's testimony, she will never walk outside prison walls again, he reassured me. That evening, as I sat on the patio watching the sun dip below the horizon, Elizabeth came out with 2 glasses of wine. "To justice," she said, raising her glass. "To Jason," I quietly added. We drank in peaceful silence while the golden light faded into the purple dusk. "What will you do now?" Elizabeth finally asked. I had been wrestling with that very question. Davis Holdings needed a leader, but the idea of returning to that world without Jason felt wrong in some way. "I'm not sure," I admitted. The company was Jason's passion, not mine. I had always been more drawn to the charitable foundation. Emily nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is your solution. The Jason Davis Foundation has a pleasant sound to it." The idea took hold instantly. A foundation that would commemorate Jason's memory by supporting the causes he was passionate about. Education for disadvantaged children, medical research, the arts. "I believe he would appreciate that," I said, feeling a small flame of purpose kindle inside me. The following morning, I met with the board of Davis Holdings to discuss the path ahead. Margaret and George were also present, having become unexpected yet cherished allies in the pursuit of justice. I have made a decision, I informed them. I will stay on as chairperson of Davis Holdings, but I am appointing Robert Chen as CEO. Robert was Jason's trusted right hand for many years, both reliable and competent. As for myself, I will dedicate my efforts to founding the Jason Davis Foundation. The board agreed unanimously, their faces showing clear relief. The company would emerge even stronger after surviving this turmoil. Later that day, I went to visit Jason's grave for the first time since the funeral. The smooth granite headstone reflected the afternoon light, his name engraved in bold letters, Jason Richard Davis, beloved son, visionary leader. I placed a single white rose on the grave and then sat quietly on the nearby bench. "We got her, Jason," I murmured. "She will face justice for what she did to you, and your legacy will endure, not just through the company, but through this foundation. The lives that the foundation will impact are countless." A soft breeze stirred the leaves above me, and for a brief moment, a wave of calm settled within me. The path forward would not be simple. There would still be challenging days, times when sorrow would consume me entirely. Yet I had rediscovered my purpose, a meaningful way to honor Jason that felt true to my heart. Emily was waiting patiently in the car when I returned. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded, casting one last glance toward my son's resting place. "Yes, I believe I am." As we drove away, I understood that although Emily had taken Jason away from me, she had missed her final aim. The real legacy, the principles, the memories, the love that Jason and I shared were untouchable. No one could lessen or take away what belonged to me forever. In the end, this meant far more than all the riches and possessions in the world. It was invaluable. It was love. Now, I am curious about you, the ones hearing my story. How would you respond if you found yourself in my situation? Have you ever experienced something alike? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. For now, on the final screen, I am sharing 2 more tales that are beloved by the channel, and they will undoubtedly surprise you. Thank you for staying to watch.